Hello and welcome to Sideways. This week we're talking about the influence the job we do can have on our emotions and how some roles appear to be more synonymous with addiction than others. We bemoan modern day snow, find sanctuary in the toilet and realise the true potential of giraffes. Big jobs. Hello, why isn't it snowing yet?
I'm not quite sure. I don't know about you, but I blame the weather forecasters.
It's a disgrace. They promised snow.
They did. I've already been out. I had my hat, coat, gloves on.
Have you been sledging?
Oh no, I went out to play snowballs, and there's nothing there. I had to throw a ball of leaves at the passing by the people that were out on their morning jogs.
Do you remember the snowball fights we used to have along St Luke's Road?
I do. They were epic, weren't they?
They were epic.
You'd have like 10 or 15 aside.
Yeah. For some reason, the snow always seems deeper in my memory.
Yeah, I think the summers were warmer. The snow was deeper.
Yeah.
Fade effect bias, I think it's called. We did a whole episode on that. You have to go back and have a look at that. Have a listen.
Yeah, nostalgia, isn't it? You kind of edit out the rotten parts of your memory and just hold on to the rosy ones.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Anyway, never mind that.
Yeah, go on.
So what are we talking about then?
What did you want to talk about? I haven't got any notes today. I thought I'd let you lead.
Well, the second part of that sentence, I can accept. I could imagine you saying, well, I'll let you lead today. The first part of the sentence, I haven't got any notes today. I'm sorry, I'm not having that, because that even if I was doing this episode, I'm pretty certain you'd still have some notes.
I have done in the past, haven't I? But cutting to the chase then, the subject matter for this week's episode came from reading an article entitled, "Are you in a toxic relationship with your job?"
Oh.
Okay. Well, yeah. Do you remember back in season 2, episode 3?
Yeah,
I don't expect you to remember the exact details of every episode we've ever done. We covered toxic relationships with people. But in this article, there's this woman describes how her work-life balance had become completely screwed and causing all sorts of stress and anxiety, which I think we can both relate to a bit of that, can't we? Yeah,
well, we've both had lengthy spells in the corporate world, haven't we?
We have, yeah, which brings its own very small rewards for very high levels of stress and anxiety, yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny, and it may be something you're going to come on to talk about, but one of the things that I've noticed, particularly having left that world behind some years ago, is that stress that manifests as a result of working in certain jobs sometimes appears kind of outwardly. So people are very conscious of it. People are very conscious of feeling stressed, and other times they don't have any kind of conscious notion of feeling stressed, but their stress comes out in other areas and is kind of illustrated by the behaviours that they then follow to try and mitigate it.
Look at my own situation. Yeah, it was coping with the stress and anxiety that sort of fueled the way that I liked to deal with that stress and anxiety, which was to try to avoid it and not think about it.
Yeah.
But going back to the article. The woman was talking about all the issues that were raised, and she illustrated it by referring to an episode of Friends, which was season 6, episode 16. It was called "The One That Could Have Been," where each of the characters wonders what would have happened if they'd made different career choices or different choices in all areas of their lives. Yeah. It was the one where it was the particular part of the episode which was relevant was where Phoebe Buffay. She wonders what it would have been like if she'd taken a job at Merrill Lynch. Yeah. Well, what actually happened? Because she did massage, didn't she? One of her massage clients said that she had a knack for stocks, and at the time she thought that everything that rhymed was true. So she thought, I've got a knack for stocks. Therefore, I've got to live in a box and have a pet fox. So it all went off in this quite bizarre, how you Phoebe could. It's quite good, actually. I mean, we've covered Chandler Bing. Now we're doing Phoebe Buffet. But I think we'll to go through all the Friends characters. I'm sure we'll be able to work them in. But in this instance, Phoebe, she's imagined she's gone to work for Merrill Lynch. She's wearing a business suit. She's got carries a briefcase, but she ends up in hospital from having a heart attack.
Because of the stress.
Brought on by the stress. And even when she's in the hospital, she continues to work and she continues to smoke as well. She hides away in the back rooms and continues to smoke. I remember there was one bit she'd hidden away in the toilet, and the other characters were in the bedroom part of it, or where the bed was, and they could see smoke coming from under the door. And Phoebe said she wasn't smoking, but the doctors had warned her it was a side effect of some of the
drugs.
What they were doing to her. Yeah. Anyway, so she was continuing to have a pretty bad lifestyle. I sort of relate to that.
Just on that subject, I can remember a friend of mine that I used to work with when I was in the corporate world. He had a friend who was also quite a senior guy in another corporate organisation. And he told me one day that his strategy for dealing with things when it all got too much was that he would go and sit in the toilet until it all went away. Which actually, funny enough, reminds me of a time when I used to, in one of the buildings that we used to work in years and years and years ago, I used to have a favourite toilet that I could go to, and I could sit in this cubicle and you could open the window and you could look out over the downs. It was quite nice, quite a good way of chilling out when everything got a bit too much.
Too much? Well, I certainly remember my first job where in an office, and I worked, when I went to have a sit down in the toilet, I worked out how much I was getting paid every time I went for a poo. So I worked it back down from my annual salary, back down to a daily, back down to an hourly rate, and then worked upon how long I was in the toilet for. I said, I just got paid a £5 for that. Brilliant work. Anyway,
you're attaching monetary value to your poo.
My ablutions.
There's probably something Freudian in that. Didn't Freud have an idea that toilet training had something to do with hoarding behaviour? Anyway,
I don't know.
We're off the topic now.
It's a whole new area, isn't it? A whole new area. Anyway, I want to get back to this article, which included the Phoebe Buffet story.
Yeah.
The woman that wrote the article, eventually she got sacked. She wasn't coping. And it wasn't until that point she started to reevaluate her life and to take stock of where she was and where she wanted to go. And I find continually with people coming to groups, and certainly I found myself that recovery is a great time to do exactly the same. You have to reevaluate. I mean, so many people come into groups where work toxicity has had a real impact on their lives, and has been a component part of their drift into addiction. We've talked about the coming together or the making up of an addict, the different component parts, and work. Career stress can be quite a big part of that. I mean, a lot of people come in and they get a real desire to get back into that profession, which we strongly advise against, or they want to get back into work straight away without properly addressing their addiction issues. And I've seen that fail so many times. But it's quite a tough one, especially if people have got financial constraints. And they've got financial responsibilities they have to deal with. But it really is vital that you spend as long as you can outside of that environment to give yourself the chance to get your addiction under control.
Do you think that one of the reasons, I mean, obviously there are probably a multiplicity of reasons why people want to kind of get straight back into their work, but I suspect one of them is because when you've reached that point with your addiction, when you've gone into recovery, you probably tie up a significant amount of your identity as a person with the work that you do, because your identity as an individual without any of the roles you play is probably at that stage pretty non-existent.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So the desire to kind of get hold of something, go back to something that A, feels as if it is normal, in inverted commas, but B, feels as if it's something that enables you to look in the mirror and recognize yourself. That's quite alluring, isn't it? But of course, it becomes a what you're really doing is you're being drawn back to part of the thing that gave you the problem in the first place.
That is the issue, and we've talked about it in the past where we can go back to places that we feel comfortable in, even though it's doing us tremendous damage. And that is exactly right. And if you consider the other option is to change your career at that stage, it's quite a big upheaval, isn't it? To try to go and do something completely different. It really helps if you do. It's not always possible, but a lot of people find that hurdle really tricky.
It is very difficult because one of the things that you need in order to make a significant change like that in your life is quite a lot of self-confidence, quite a lot of self-belief that you can move away from what you know and do something different. And of course, again, you're kind of calling on that requirement in yourself at a time where that sort of resource is probably at its lowest ebb.
But it's nice, isn't it, to have a bit of a reboot in your life sometimes anyway. And this point in your life when you're going into recovery is a great time to do it.
One of the things that stops people moving from one job into another one is the way they think about the money they're paid. And quite often what people do is they say, oh, well, I can't move from here to there because I can't earn the same amount of money. But that's not really the most relevant question. The most relevant question is, how much money do I need? And can I earn the money that I need doing something different that will perhaps give me a lower level of stress, that will give me, more time to maybe concentrate on some of the things that I've let go of. And I think if, when people can ask themselves that question rather than can I reach financial parity with where I am? Then that in itself is almost indicative of a positive change, I think.
It is, but people worry about what other people think too much in those situations as well.
Yeah, they do, definitely.
There's a certain kudos that attaches to certain types of job, for example, and to walk away from that, going back to your point about their identity, they're almost walking away from themselves. And so it is quite tough.
Well, again, that's something else that's very, very difficult if you're in recovery, isn't it? Because if you're walking away from a job that gives you some sort of status to one that you feel for some reason doesn't give you any, then at a time when you're probably already wrestling with feelings of shame and guilt, you're then challenging yourself to feel, to take on another emotion that might be difficult for you to hold. So there's a lot of stuff that makes it very, very tough. There's absolutely no question that it is a positive move, but feeling that it's a positive move is really tough.
It's complex. It is complex, and not one size fits all. Everyone has their own ways of getting through it. I've seen people successfully go back to their careers and maintain their sobriety. So it's not a complete no-no, but I've just seen way more failures than successes in that area. So you sort of weigh up the odds on that one, if we're allowed to use that sort of analogy, and when we're talking about addictions.
Yeah, you could certainly use it if you had been a bookmaker, and then you'd come into.
Do you think? I mean, looking back, my career was quite a big component part of my issues in the end. Once my addiction attached to that as well, once that perfect storm came into place, where I was having all sorts of problems with relationships and my job, the stress and anxiety that it was calling, and the peers that I was mixing with at that time, it all came together, and it did help to fuel my addiction. I mean, do you feel that your job had any sort of major issues on you?
I always, whenever I'm kind of addressing that question, which I have done a number of times over the years, because obviously I made a significant career change. It's not like I moved out of one corporate role into another one. I mean, I did something completely different. And the answer I always give people is, going back to something I was saying earlier, I think the way that I was coping with it, or the stress that it was causing me, was something that I wasn't really conscious of. Because I can I'll always tell people that my wife had said to me, you should find something different to do because I don't think you're happy there. And she was right, except that the time between her telling me that and me actually taking action was about 12 years. So
you can't rush these things, can you?
Well, but it's an illustration of how sometimes other people can see stuff that you can't see. And in the end, as you know, it brought me to my knees, and everything fell apart. So sometimes I think we kind of force ourselves into a situation where we don't want to acknowledge things that feel as if they're going to cause us an enormous amount of upset and discomfort when we have to go through the change that they necessitate.
I agree. And when I was looking at the stats, when I was to put my notes together, I was looking at the statistics with regards to which sort of careers has the highest amount of addicts in there, if you like, or which careers could lead to addiction. And I don't think it's quite as straightforward as that. But as I say, if it's a component part of the making up of an addict. But there's surprising disparity between certain career paths and how people end up, as how far up on the addiction scale they end up, if you like. I remember I was on a radio show and there's a landlord got in touch and said, is it inevitable that I'm going to end up an alcoholic? And I had to think on my feet at that time because I didn't have any stats to hand, And I said, well, no, it's not inevitable, obviously. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone that has addiction issues to go into that field of work, certainly. But it is potentially a component part, and you might have a higher risk because you've got a higher exposure to that to that sort of lifestyle, if you like. It's on hand, it's on tap.
No pun intended.
It wasn't intended, no, but it was quite good. But when I looked it up, certainly hospitality, food service, which includes the pubs, has the highest rate of people that are in there that have addiction issues. Now, we know that in general society it's around about 10%, and in the hospitality industry, it's up to around about 20.
Wow, 1 in 5, crikey.
So it's quite a big jump.
Do you think there are any teetotal publicans?
I know some, yeah.
Do you?
I do. I do. And I think if you go into it, especially people that own it, who perhaps will own a pub and get someone else to run it for them,
right?
And they can see the destruction that it will cause. Some of the older style landlords that perhaps you and I knew, where you actually had almost like a personal relationship with the landlord, didn't you? You'd go in, you were on first name terms, it'd be your local, and they would join in the drinking as much. In fact, they were worse than you sometimes, weren't they? I don't mean you. I mean, the people
certainly weren't worse than you, were they? I mean, let's face it. I think you were on first name terms with virtually every landlord in Maidstone, weren't you?
I was the best client, I used to say, and that was replicated in many pubs, many hostelries. I kept them going for a long time.
Have you ever known anyone fall into addiction problems who was in hospitality and then go into recovery and go back into hospitality and maintain their sobriety?
No. No, I haven't. It's probably happened. Just from my own personal experience, I haven't seen it, and that would be a very tricky path to go down. That's for sure.
That's quite interesting, that whole kind of concept of careers that have a greater propensity to seed addictive behaviour. I imagine one of them is West Ham United football manager. They're playing all right at the moment, so I'd imagine David Moyes isn't rushing for the whiskey right now, but it will come, won't it? I mean, give it a couple of months.
But after the hospitality and drinks industry, the next one was construction and mining, where the rate is around about 15%.
Do you think that's culture?
To a large extent, yeah, it is. I know we get a few people that come in that work on sites and that sort of thing, and it is very culture driven. They'll go for a beer afterwards.
Yeah.
A lot of them would take it. It's the illicit drugs, which is the biggest problem on the sites. Why do you think that's so kind of rife in that world? I think you've hit the nail on the head as far as culture is concerned. It's sort of always been there. It's sort of a very blokey industry. Some of them do work very long hours, and it can be very stressful, especially if the ones that are commuting and up to town to work on big projects uptown. It can be quite exhausting. And I think some of the illicit drugs that can give you a bit of a boost to get you through the days become quite popular. A lot of the sites do have drug testing these days, and we'll have dogs come onto the site for a sniffer dogs to come and try and sort out any little hidden stashes anywhere.
I prefer a short nap to get me through the day.
Not quite so easy when you're sort of 100 foot up on some scaffolding poles. You'd have to tie yourself on and just hang there for a while. The next one after that was arts and entertainment.
Oh, well, again, isn't that? I mean, there's something there. There's something there again, similarly about pressure, isn't there? I mean, it's a pressured environment. There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's also something I suspect strongly cultural about it. I mean, you're surrounded by it all the time.
You are, aren't you? In the notes, I'll read this bit from there under the arts and entertainment bits because it's a bit slightly controversial, but it said in here that arts and entertainment are careers that tend to attract creative people who may have other mental health disorders such as depression or anxiety. Performance is a high-stress activity, which is, I don't think that's strictly true, but certainly, if you're looking at the entertainment, you've only got to take, live music, for example. I mean, I'd imagine that if you took that on its own as a subsector of the arts and entertainment industry, I'd imagine there's a very high level in there. And certainly always when we were gigging about, wasn't it? There's a lot of people that were taking that sort of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
The next one down was business management. Next one on the list, which would have taken into
we know about that, don't we?
We do, and that's around about 14%. So it's only smaller amounts higher than the average, the population's average, but it is still a significant amount if you put that into actual figures across the UK or across the world.
Certainly, I mean, from my experience, and I think you'd probably echo this, the thing about being in the business world is you are constantly in the sort of environment where you have the opportunity to drink to excess, don't you? There'll be conferences or meetings or lunches. I mean, there's kind of a lot of pressure to behave in a certain way. And certainly that sort of environment would not be conducive to someone who was trying to lead a life of abstinence.
No, I mean, I think the worst place I saw that really was up in the city, where the equity dealers were, we're doing a lot of coke just to keep going because they'd have to be awake all night with certain markets around the world. Operating at different times, and it was the time I was introduced. Although I didn't actually do it, I saw people do it. Was sniffing vodka, which was a bit of a trend at that time.
Sniffing vodka.
Yeah. It's they're using. Actually, I won't go into the reason how they were doing it, but sniffing vodka, which obviously the blood vessels in the nose are near the surface, and it gets into your bloodstream very quickly, and it does. And then it wasn't on your breath, which again a little bit of a misnomer. But I saw that happen. I thought that is weird, but again, it would be a quick hit, and they could get back onto the desks. Yeah, strange.
I prefer the Italians' method of going for a very quick espresso and then going back to work.
You wouldn't call that social drinking, would you really? Sniffing vodka in the toilets. But the last group I just wanted to talk about, which is quite relevant at the moment, is the healthcare system, where especially it tends to be people that were working, certainly the nurses working in those high stress areas like anaesthetics, A&E, places where there was a lot going on there, a lot at stake, and their addiction rates were around about 15%. Which I'd imagine that would be creeping up a little bit at the moment.
It'd be interesting to see what that is kind of post-pandemic.
It will, to see what the fallout is on the mental health of those people right at the front line.
Yeah, I was reading something yesterday about staff in acute areas of hospitals already needing to be treated for trauma. And of course, one of the things we don't know is that at the moment they're still in the midst of the trauma. And one of the things that we can't possibly measure at the moment is what impact it's going to have on everybody, particularly healthcare workers post-trauma.
Yeah. I think it's going to be around for some time, mopping up the fallout from it all. But when I looked at those statistics and looking at the research, I looked at several different places online on this to sort of get an idea. It didn't really correlate totally with what I've noticed in groups. That's the only thing. But I know our groups are only a very small part. It's like a microcosm of the recovery community. But certainly, I've found we've had more than a few people in certain areas. It tends to be teachers. We've had several teachers come in, which is understandable, I suppose. Labourers, and we've already touched on construction. Bus drivers, and people from the farming community.
My father-in-law was a bus driver. He likes to drink.
Was it? Yes. Yeah, he still does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Not that he's on the buses anymore, is he?
But, no, but then he was a prison officer after that. And I suspect they probably got quite a high incidence of alcoholism because, again, super stressful job. There's something about, obviously you can't eradicate stressful careers, but there does seem to be something missing in our ability to self-regulate in those careers. I think you mentioned at the start today, you used the phrase work-life balance, which of course is quite a favourite phrase and has been for a number of years. But I think part of the problem with work-life balance is a lot of people wait for an organisation to give them work-life balance, whereas in fact, you have to take your work-life balance. And the reason that that's so difficult is because some people, I think, fear creating a good work-life balance because they worry that their employer that will then see them as, not good enough, not working hard enough, and so on and so forth. So it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's never going to change, really, is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there has been a lot of debate as to whether the pandemic will change people's attitudes. I mean, I still maybe I'm just a blind optimist, but I do hope in some ways that it does shift things to some extent. All those people who are not now spending 3 hours on public transport every day getting to and from work, and they've got that time back. It seems inconceivable, doesn't it, that organisations will say, right, we're going to have everybody back in our office 5 days a week. I mean, why would you do that? If your business is still running and you've got people working from home 5 days a week, why would you want to go back to renting massive office space and getting people to burn themselves out sitting on trains every day? It doesn't make sense. I'm not saying we won't go back to that because we quite possibly will, but it would be depressing. It
would be depressing. You'd like to think there would be a general shift towards not doing that the whole time, for sure. So, the companies must see their bottom lines increase when they don't have to rent such big office spaces, and they can share some of that responsibility with their employees who can work from home and don't have to go through the process. I mean, I've known people that their companies have said this is working really well. We're going to keep this like this, forever. You just have to check in, come into the office, once every 6 months or whatever. We keep it like that. It seems to be working perfectly well.
Be difficult for you to work from home permanently, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would really.
You'd have to have a very, very long set of paintbrushes.
I would, yeah. It's an impossibility, isn't it? You can't do it. But it's worked pretty well for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been all right for me. Yeah, and in other good news, it is now snowing.
Is it? It hasn't hit here yet.
Oh well, you're about a mile away, so
I am. Yeah.
No, it has worked well for me. I've been very fortunate in that regard, and I'm fully aware of that. But yes, it has. It's been okay.
So anyway, is there anything you've learnt this week that you want to share?
No, I don't think so.
I was watching this. I think it was on YouTube. I was watching it about. It's just an episode of some program. It was about some of these big game hunters.
Yeah.
And the horrors out there, awful it is, the people going out and shooting these beautiful animals. And they were saying that, some people shoot giraffes, for God's sake, one of the most graceful creatures that ever walked this land. And
I hope this has got a happy ending, this story.
It has got quite a happy ending, because I learned that giraffes, they only need about 5 to 30 minutes sleep in any 24-hour period. That's not very much, is it?
Really?
Yeah, they're probably trying to keep their eye out for the poachers, probably. But that's all they need, and they stand up all the time. They rarely, sit down or lay down. They stand up, and that 5 minutes nap they do standing up, and the way they carry on, that's enough for them.
If giraffes only need 5 minutes sleep in a 24-hour period, why don't we send them to work in the offices for the high-stress jobs?
They got plenty of they've got loads left in the tank, haven't they?
They've got loads left in the tank, and that would be sensible, wouldn't it? Because they'd be able to see over walls without ladders and stuff. They'd be able to do your job without ladders, wouldn't they?
They would, or they could. They could work if the lifts are broken in the offices. They can work on the top floors anyway, can't they? No problem at all.
There you go. That'll be helpful, won't it, to people? If you need a little bit of a break, you have a couple of weeks off. Get a giraffe in.
I think between us we've sorted out the post-COVID problems at a stroke.
It was there. It was right under our noses all the time, wasn't it? Or rather, we were under their noses all the time.
Well, hey.
That's very good. That might be one of the most useful things you've learnt this week ever.
What about guilty pleasures? Any thoughts on that?
No, I haven't got any. Have you?
Yeah, I've got one. Yes, I have. I've got quite a few already lined up going forward, so I'm always ahead of the game on this one, because I like
most things.
I like to have a route around on Spotify when I'm updating my liked list.
Yeah.
And you come across it. Oh yeah, I like that, but that is cheesy. And a cheesy song from the '60s.
Yeah.
That I came across. Thought, I like that, and it sort of reminded me of being very wee. But it was the Rhythm of the Rain by the Cascades.
I don't even know what that is.
Do you not? I mean,
No.
you got to have listen to it. It's really cheesy. The lyrics are really cheesy. But
Rhythm of the Rain by the Cascades. I'm gonna look for that. You might have already told me this, but have you made a Spotify playlist with all of your guilty pleasures on it?
I have, yes. That's where I store them. I store them on there when I see them. I put them on the guilty pleasures playlist, and then I just have a look when I'm writing my notes. I have a quick look. Oh yeah, I haven't used that one before.
Is it publicly available, your playlist?
No, but I think I can make it publicly available.
Make it publicly available, and then next week I'll share a link to it in the newsletter, and everyone else can enjoy the shocking tunes that you pretend to like. Okay. Yeah, I've never made any of my lists public, so I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure it's pretty easy to do. Well, it'd be pretty easy for most people who are tech savvy, but I don't know if that includes you necessarily.
The thing is, when you go onto your list, Spotify have come up with a few suggestions to add to it. And they must look at that and think, "What the hell is this man on?"
What's it? What are they suggesting to you?
There's some Agadoo that was on there.
I'm surprised you haven't named that yet. What about the Birdie song? Have you had that one yet?
That's probably on there as well. No, but I don't like them. I can't put it on there if I don't like them. I'm not just putting out this is a crap song for this week. I'm putting something that I actually like, which I should feel guilty about.
I don't think you do feel guilty about it, though, do you?
No, I don't particularly. It just fits nicely into this slot in the episode.
Yeah.
But there was I can't remember where it was now. I thought, there's an artist that is pretty cheesy, but I like quite a few of their tracks, but I can't remember what it was now. I'll have to look on my list again now. But anyway,
was it Perry Como?
No, well, I do like a bit of Perry Como.
Of course you bloody like Perry Como. Yeah, of course you do. Was it the Rubettes?
It wasn't the Rubettes, but there's probably a Jukebox Jive has got to be in there, isn't it? Really, is a great track.
I think I've already had Jukebox Jive on this little.
I think you probably have.
Was it Alvin Stardust?
You can go on forever, mate, but I can't remember. I'm not going to. I don't want to drag this out any longer. It's got boring now. Can you stop?
Wizard.
You can't just keep naming sort of wafties or 70s groups and expect me to react. I'm not having any of it.
Lieutenant Pigeon, Mouldy Old Doe. Actually, I'll have that one. I think I might have had that one already, actually.
I don't think you have. I don't think if you have. I don't think you have, but it took a long time.
I really like that one. I like that one.
You can't do your research on air whilst we're doing what.
Well, I'm not researching. They're just coming into my head. And the other one that springs to mind, which I suppose would fall into this same category, would be Sailor with Girls, Girls, Girls. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah. They also did Glass of Champagne, another one of their hits.
Sorry, do you mean Glass of Champagne?
That's it, yeah. We can't include that on a podcast when we're discussing drinking issues.
That's a shame because I like that one. I think I had that on a single.
I remember on Top of the Pops, the lead singer had a little anchor on his face, a little anchor tattoo on his face.
I think that was Cockney rhyming slang. Good.
Cheers.
So, are we done?
We're done. I'm going to put my chicken on. Bye.
It won't suit you. See you later.
Hey. Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work, visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook at Sideways Podcast, or you can email us to let us know what you think of the show and with anything else you'd like to ask us. And finally, we want to thank you for listening and ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5. For service and devotion, you would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Wanna move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me.